And I'm back with more Apollo Justice Trilogy. And turn the music down just a smidge, but I think the balance is good and characters sound good. That night, customer asked me to deal cards for game. So I have Olga Orly here trying to deal with she's the witness in the murder of Shady Smith, who was with Phoenix Wright at the night of the crime. It was cold. Both players play with hats on, The victim, he play whole time with hand locked on neck. Then last hand done, but something terrible happened, That man flew at victim, strangling him to death. Incidentally, who won the game? Isn't it obvious the winner was the victim? Objection! God, fuck, it's still loud. That's ridiculous, because Mr. Wright can't lose. Justice, maybe you can come up with a more legitimate objection. But he hadn't lost in 7 years. Take it from me, kid. It happens. I didn't lose a case in my first 7 years either. Incidentally, I have some evidence here. These are the poker chips that they lay the very moment of the crime. The hand and the chips on the side belong to the defendant. Those on the far side belong to Mr. Smith. Chips, you say? Yes. Imagine that poker is war. Your hand is your army and chips are your spoils. I know that. After all, in my youth, I was known as the poker head of courtroom number 3. I think he means poker face. Looking at this picture, it does seem that most of the chips are on the victim's side of the table. Very well, the defense may cross-examine the witness. That's a lot of... that is a very heavy coat for LA.
Objection!
Oh, really? Oh, I get it. Strangled, you say? Well, that's odd. Normal customers only choke on borscht. No, this report shows that the victim died to a blow to the head. Miss Orly, really now, did you witness the crime? Now that's professional. Looking at the picture, it doesn't seem he was hit. He was still wearing his hat and everything. Yet as a fact, he was hit. Ow. Here's a photo of the victim with his hat off during our investigation. Well, that's quite shocking, isn't it? This head certainly was hit. But I've seen it happen. The defendant, he lunged at victim, his neck. Oh, really? I think I've caught you in your own lie this time. Justice? I admire your enthusiasm, but perhaps you should think this through once more. What do you mean? I found a contradiction. There's one thing in her testimony that troubles me. Very well. It seems we should continue the cross-examination. There's such a thing as thinking too much. This horse is dead. Let's stop beating it. There is such a thing as thinking aloud too much, too. You know, there was one curious part of her testimony. But what does that mean? Mr. Justice, would you care to explain what it is you're thinking so intensely about? Recall the testimony, Your Honor. The victim played with his hand on the locket of his neck, as I believe she said. I hope you aren't about to raise an objection to the witness's grammar. No, but look at this photograph. That's a reference to a song, I think. Do you see a locket on the victim's neck? Well done, Justice. I'm impressed. I knew you'd be able to handle this. But what does that mean? If we are to believe the witness's testimony as is, then the locket disappeared following the victim's death. Lockets don't just disappear, Your Honor. It's quite simple when you think about it. If the locket is gone, someone must have taken it off, no? Taken it off? What? You don't mean... The defendant wasn't strangling the victim at all. He was taking off his locket. Wouldn't that explain it? Defendant, what do you have to say to this? Say... Yes? I just noticed this, but you've something hanging around your neck, don't you? Oh, you mean this? Yes, it's a locket with a photograph inside. A photo of my daughter. What? Come again? Mr. Wright, you have a daughter? We confirmed it at the time of arrest. The picture in the locket is indeed Mr. Wright's daughter. So, Mr. Wright has a locket too? Why don't I buy this as just a coincidence? Well now, if the results of this poker game led to the murder, perhaps we should hear a bit more about the outcome. Further testimony won't really be necessary. It's clear the defendant lost badly. Huh? Miss Orly, you will testify to the court about the game played between the victim and defendant. The game began with 3,500 pointed chips for each man. House chips come in two sizes, small and large. The man was winning, was victim. For last hand, defendant play all chips on table and lose. The moment loss was decided, defendant grabbed bottle from table and... Indeed, looking at this picture, it does seem to be one-sided. As the court knows, poker was the defendant's life. Failure must have been a bitter pill to swallow. How many times have I heard those words? I done it in a fit of anger, Your Honor, and now I regret what I've done. A common tale, but true. Methinks the judge watched too many court movies. Mr. Wright said he hasn't lost it 7 years, so his testimony must be wrong. Are the chips in this photo all the chips that were used? Of course! Something's fishy about these chips. Should I press harder? Maybe you could explain more about them? Explain? What is that to be explained? Oh, stop it! Your screech is worse than Apollo's. Poker chips are poker chips. They're not fish and chips, not a chip off the old block, not a motorcycle. Thanks. Now that I've pressed her, I better ask something. What are these chips worth? Are they dollars, rubles even? Yeah. As I've been saying, it was a game, not gambling. Hard perhaps for capitalists to understand. 2 types of chips, 100 and 1,000 point chip. It's not money. Justice, don't you find her comment interesting? In more ways than one, sir. I'll have it added to her testimony myself. Well, does the defense want to words. Does the defense want the witness to add to her testimony? Yes, I think it does deserve further testimony. I wish I knew where I was going with all this. Very well, witness. If you would be so kind. Your Honor. One kind of chip is worth 100. Other kind is worth 1,000. 2 kinds in all.
Objection!
You sure it was the victim who won? Absolutely sure. It seems our new attorney's a bit confused. A glance at the picture's all enough to tell you who won, if you're not in kindergarten. Just for safety's sake, could you explain the problem? Of course, Your Honor. In this photo, I see small chips and I see large ones. Tell me, which were worth 1,000? Why, the big ones, of course, duh. Oh, I thought so too. But then the totals don't add up. The totals? Let's review what the witness told us. Each man started with 3,500 points in chips, and the combined total value was 7,000. Yes, if my calculations are correct, let's see, 3 plus 2 carry. Now, they are, Your Honor. Now, look at this photo, with allegedly all the chips. If the big chips are worth 1,000 and the small ones are worth 100, you add them up. How much? Do it yourself. You aren't in kindergarten, are you? 10,600. The chips don't add up. This clearly contradicts the witness's testimony.
But why? How could this be?
Exactly, Justice. Now that you know the what, you must determine the why. Right. There's only one possible way to explain this. Each man began the game with 3,500 chips. If all the chips were indeed shown, then there could be only one answer. Well, what is it? The value of the chips was the other way around. What? Want to know what I think? The small chips were worth 1,000 points, not the big ones.
This madness! It's utter madness! Show me that photograph again!
There's 6 small ones, 10 large ones.
Why, that does make 7,000!
Excellent work, Justice. It's almost as though you figured it out by yourself. Well, I'm just glad I was the one who said it.
But wait! The value of the chips may be different, but that changes nothing!
Indeed, the victim did have the larger number of chips. Exactly. If the small chips were 1,000, large were 100, let's do a little math. Add up the points. 2,900, the defense had 4,100! Well now. Sure seems Mr. Wright was winning after all.
That's impossible! That's impossible!
My client had even less reason to kill the victim. After all, he was winning! Now, Mr. Orly. Miss Orly! You must have known the true value of the chips, since you were there at the scene of the crime, weren't you? Wait. God, that coat is so heavy. It's almost like she's hiding something.
Order! Order!
It appears our defendant has lost his motive, and Mr. Wright's supposed defeat never happened. We must now ask ourselves whether we can trust the Huh? Oh. Excuse me, what is it, Miss Orly? I did not want to say anything, but actually, See what, Miss Orly, or what do we see? In the last hand, there was cheat.
A cheat? You don't mean a trick?
Wait, you mean a scam? They're all the same thing. Yes, there was cheat in last hand. That is why game ends with chips as they are. Great. Just great. First we have lying, no cheating. Well, this case has certainly taken a turn. For the interesting.
Witness! You will please testify to the court. Tell us about this cheating in the final hand.
Uh-oh. Doo-dee-doo-dee-doo. The last hand. Both men had full house. There are 4 of each card in deck. Ace, king. If you look at both men's hand, cheat is more obvious. The next moment, game become argument, Defendant's trick was exposed. Took bottle in hand. Oh, poor Mr. Smith.
Miss Orly! Why didn't you tell the court from the very beginning?
Thought I smelled a cover up here. Well, folks, time to throw back the covers.
A full house is a very high-scoring hand. Not easy to make, in my experience.
That alone is enough to suspect less than scrupulous tactics. Mr. Gavin? What's a full... Are you stupid? Lawyers these days. You don't know your poker?
I can't say this bodes well for your case or career.
What is this, some kind of secret poker ring? Justice. You know the terms 1 pair, 2 pair, 3 pair, or 3 of a kind, yes?
Yeah, no problem.
2 cards with the same number make a pair. 3 makes 3 of a kind.
Whoops. Well, 3 makes 3 of a kind.
Good. Now picture a hand with 1 and 1 3 of a kind. That's a full house. Oh, that doesn't sound very easy to make, does it? No! This is basic gambling. And basic kids' child's play, because everybody's played cards. I guess Apollo Justice never did. I get that the gamer's doing this probably for just bare bones if you've never played poker before, but I'm assuming people have played cards everywhere. You can see each player's hand in this photo. They both have full houses. We forget, there's an easy way to make a full house and go undefeated for 7 years. You cheat.
The defense may cross-examine the witness.
If you did cheat in the last hand, it still leaves one important question. Mr. Wright lost that hand. Who's ever heard of a professional con man losing when they cheat?
Hold it!
How was it clear? Well, defendant, he played a 5th ace. A 5th ace? I still remember both hands very well. Mr. Smith's hand had 3 aces. And Mr. Wright's too. Obviously, cheating was afoot. Or should I say, a hand. Your Honor, perhaps this can be added to the testimony. Without Mr. Payne's joke.
Very well, the witness will add this detail to her testimony.
Present chip photo.
Objection!
It appears the witness is mistaken. Mistaken? But my name... Look, this piece of evidence clearly contradicts what you just said.
That's the photo of the chips, isn't it?
Justice, perhaps you ought to explain your point in a way that the judge can comprehend. In other words, use your finger to point out your point. Please point out the contradiction.
Take that!
Why, it's here, of course.
It's where?
Where is that you're pointing?
We've already heard today the dangers of bluffing.
Wait a minute. Why, I did. Examine Smith's hand, view victim's hand. I did that, though. Wait a minute.
Take that!
Game? What are you doing to me? I'm pointing out the thing.
Take that!
Miss Orly. That's where I pointed! God damn it! Miss Orly, in your testimony, you made the following claim. The game is rigged and I can't press the right spot. But as you can clearly see, the victim only had 2 aces. Well, maybe the witness was simply confused. Perhaps it was the defendant's hand that held the 3rd ace. Take another look at the evidence. As you can see, the defendant also had 2 aces. Where's this 5th ace? I see cheating, all right. It's going on right here in the courtroom. 2 aces in each player's hand does make 4 aces. Hardly proof of cheating. Wait, please. It is true. I've seen it. 5th ace. There was cheating, I swear to you. That's odd. She must be lying if she's the most sincere I've seen her all day. You're right to trust your instincts. Mr. Gavin, who knows what lies in store for us in the trial ahead? Your Honor, if I may, I have a suggestion. What might that be, Mr. Gavin? Do you want me to point at hands again until the game actually says the thing? If you don't mind, perhaps we might examine the actual cards.
The cards.
Mr. Payne? Yes? The players' hands that night were set aside as evidence, were they not? The defense would like to request that the cards be shown to the court.
Very well. The prosecution will submit this evidence.
Which will you examine?
The victim's cards or the defendant's?
If this doesn't prove cheating, nothing will. Now, which of these hands is more suspicious? It was the victim's hand that changed over the course of the witness's testimony. The defense requests to examine Mr. Smith's cards.
Very well.
Mr. Payne, if you would. Very well. Well, time's wasting. Get to it, Justice.
Yes, sir.
When examining evidence, be sure to view it from all sides and angles. Try using blah 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 to turn it every which way, and blah 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 to zoom in and out. That should give you a better perspective on this case. This was introduced in Rise from the Ashes. Because this was the first one, and I think was after the original... Yeah, this was after the original trilogy. So, hooray! Hello? What?
Your Honor! Look at this! One of the victim's cards! The back is a different color!
Huh?
What?!
That's impossible! But I put the card in... What was that, Miss Woman? I merely... I have...
Your Honor!
Mr. Gavin, tell me, what is the easiest way to cheat at poker? To cheat? I'll tell you. One merely needs a friend. A comrade, shall we say. The dealer.
Huh? How?
What do you mean? This witness, Miss Orly? She's the cheater. The professional. Yarg! Uh-oh. I love how that's... She goes, Yarg! Okay. Cool. Focus, Justice. Time to take advantage. Of her mistake. Yes. Yes, Apollo. Only take advantage of her mistake, please. This is not the kind of game we're playing. Please recall the testimony we just heard. That's impossible. I heard the car. Uh-oh. Ergo, Miss Olga Orly conspired to cheat. Not with my client, but with the victim, Mr. Shady Smith. Not only did she cheat, but she cheated poorly. Therefore, it's not hard to imagine an altercation between her and the victim. What? Wait, you don't mean... The defense isn't accusing the witness. You're not accusing the witness, are you? Time for justice. There are 3 people in the room at this time. And if Mr. Wright isn't guilty, then I am. The defense accuses the witness, Miss Olga Orly, of murder. Oh. Oh, damn. Mr. Payne, where is your witness, Miss Olga Orly? It appears she lost consciousness, Your Honor. Mr. Justice, Your Honor, it seems you've presented a new possibility to the court. One suggesting a connection between the witness and the victim, Mr. Smith. And that means this court cannot pronounce a verdict for the defendant at this time. I did it. I held out. I see no point in prolonging the trial this day. The prosecution will need to make further inquiries. Huh? What the? Oh. Mr. Wright? You can't end the trial here. Not yet. What nonsense is the defendant spewing now? Think. One of the cards had a different colored back. Don't you wonder what it means? What are you doing, Mr. Wright? Raising objections right when you're about to get off the hook? That's ridiculous. Mr. Payne, you of all people should know, Mr. Wright has a talent for the ridiculous. Sure fucking does. Perhaps we should get to the bottom of things. Let's clear facts about the game this fateful night. Uh-oh. As was said before, we alternated between 2 decks of cards that night. That was said before. The 2 decks at the club have different colored backs, blue and red. 1 color per deck. Why use different colored backs? If we use the same color, the 2 decks might get mixed. Use different colors and they still got mixed up. We used the red deck for the last game. I see, but that's odd. For some reason, I have this impression that you were using the blue cards. Yeah, me too. I'm sure someone said something about blue cards. Whatever. In the end, 1 card of the wrong color got mixed in, which means there was cheating. A card slipped in the deck would seem to indicate cheating. Yet this card raises 2 serious questions. Apollo? Yes? Let's consider the first question, shall we? Think. In the last game, when was the card swapped? When? There are 3 broad possibilities. Could have been before, during, or after the murder. Well, yeah, thanks for the news bulletin, Mr. Wright. Of course it was... No. Might not be. It might be as simple as you think. Or it might not be. Yeah. I'd like to hear what Apollo thinks first. When do you think the cards were swapped? When the cards were swapped? Perhaps it happened after the murder? What's that? It's ridiculous. What's the point of cheating after the hands have been shown? That's silly. Yes, but tell me, how do you swap cards during the game? I'll take silly over impossible. Take it from me, son. There's a lot of silly in this world, but very little impossible. Yes, you might cross-examine a parrot one day. Oh, even when the backs of cards are different colors? If you pull that during the game, you'd be caught in no time. Ugh, quite true. That would mean that the blue card in question was swapped after the hands were shown. After the murder. Okay, this is getting past silly and straight on crazy. I ask again, what's the point of cheating after the game's over? Who would do that? Who indeed? That's one of the mysteries before us. There's another? Yeah, a simple yet decisive question must be asked. Who swapped the red one for a blue one? Who? The game, the murder is done. The victim is dead. Only two remain in the room. Alive, that is. The defendant Phoenix Wright and her witness, Olga Orly. Okay, so who was it who swapped the card? The one who swapped the cards wasn't Mr. Wright, of course. And it doesn't seem like it could have been done by Olga Orly either. What are you suggesting? That's hardly a logical conclusion, I'll admit. As the defense, I think it only makes sense for you to name Miss Orly at this point. Yeah, I know. But she was the one who dealt the cards, right? I just can't believe she would make the mistake of swapping the wrong color. If the card was swapped during the game, it would be obvious. Is something you'd like to share with the court, Mr. Wright? Oh, my apologies, Your Honor. I was just thinking how much fun this all is. Fun? How about confusing? I have no idea what the defense is claiming. If the one who swapped the cards wasn't the defendant or Miss Orly, then who was it? Well, that is the question, isn't it? Precisely. Huh? I believe we're about to see this case take a new direction. A new direction? We'll find that, indeed, after the murder, someone swapped one of the cards in the victim's hands, and that someone made two critical mistakes. I'm sure you're going to tell us the first was swapping the wrong color card. Because the one who did the swap didn't know the two colors of cards were being used. The other mistake was the number. Right. Person replaced the fifth ace with a king. I'm sure whoever swapped it wasn't expecting there to be a fifth ace after all. All they knew was the game had been won with a full house. So they picked up a king from the table and swapped it in. There's one problem. According to the case record, this person doesn't exist. True. Not until now. But you have to admit the possibility of a fourth person. Though it's more than a possibility. There was someone else there that night, the scene of the crime. What? I believe the judge spoke truthfully earlier. You do make trials ridiculous, Mr. Wright. This trial has proceeded under one central assumption. Namely, that at the time of the incident there were only 3 people in the room. I believe this new evidence, shall we say, overturns that assumption. The problem is that you chose to conceal this information from the court. I suppose that is a problem, yes. Court is adjourned for a brief recess. Mr. Gavin, I'll see you in my chambers during the recess. Certainly, Your Honor. Very well, the trial will resume in 20 minutes. That was quite unexpected, Mr. Wright. To suddenly claim there was another person at the scene of a crime like that. I must ask, is it the truth? Well now, I think you'd like to know I think you'd know the answer to that. Being mysterious, are we? Sadly, I have no time for mysteries. I'd only ask that you leave the defending to your defense in the future. Otherwise, I can't guarantee the outcome. I see you haven't mellowed out one bit. Justice. Yes, sir? The judge has summoned me to his chambers, so carry on without me. You did well, Apollo. Can I ask you something? Sure. That locket you wear, is it really yours, Mr. Wright? Oh, you're wondering about the victim's disappearing locket? Here, you can take a look at it. There's a picture of my daughter in there. That's Trucy. I'm just surprised to hear you have a daughter. Most people are. Perhaps you'll meet her one of these days. One more question. The one who cheated that night, was it you? What do you think? Huh? You know what happened 7 years ago. What I did. It's not unreasonable for you to think I might cheat. I never, honest, but it is odd that you managed to go undefeated for 7 whole years. Want to know something? There's only one game you can be dealt bad cards all night and still win. Poker. Huh? You see, poker's all about reading your opponent. In that way, it's a lot like a court case. Poker is like trial law? Figure out what your opponent's thinking, and you win. Well, yeah, but that's harder than it sounds. I think not. Try as they might to conceal it, everyone reveals their true thoughts by the end. Their body language can become a valuable source of information. You're kidding! That witness, for instance, Miss Orly. She would touch the back of her neck during certain parts of her testimony. Did you notice? No. Come on, who'd notice that? Words, habits, twitches, all information for the reading. That's the secret to winning, Apollo. Someone taught me, and now I pass the secret on to you. But I'm not worthy. I mean, there's no way I'll pick up on those signals. No, you can do it. Huh? You just don't know it yet. What's he talking about? But you will. Soon. Oh, I almost forgot. There's one more thing about this case. You should know. I haven't told the truth to anyone yet. What? I knew it. I have my reasons, of course. All shall be revealed. And Apollo, I need you to be there defending me. I need your power. My power? I had no idea my cords of steel. No. It's time. The real trial begins now. Do your best. Oh boy. Ooh, I love it. Oh boy. Alright. Yay. The trial resumes. But that's 2 episodes in. And we'll get into more of the trial in the next episode. Thanks for watching.